politics. This is the show where you can ask me anything that you like about politics, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So, this is the show where you can ask all of your questions, and no one's going to judge you, no one's going to roast you, no one's going to make fun of you, no one's going to try to fight you. I don't believe in debating people or arguing with people. I only am here for engagement on the topics and on the policies so that we can all have a better understanding of what's going on in the country and what we can do about it and what our government is up to, etc. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something on the outskirts, or something on the middle. Muzz King, thank you so much for being here. Great to see you again. So, yeah, you don't have to worry about getting called a fascist or a cuck or a centrist corporate tool here. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. There's a lot of misinformation and propaganda out there surrounding politics these days. And so, this is the place where you can ask all of those questions that you've always wanted to know without any kind of fear of ridicule or roasting. Mel says has America always been the bad guy? I wouldn't say always, but I would say that it has been the bad guy many times in the past. Triska, great to see you again. Happy Friday to you as well. So yeah, any questions about politics, just throw them in the chat and we will get to answering them. I know politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it and people are just bandying about words like reconciliation or continuing resolution and filibuster. And if you don't know what those words mean, then it can be really difficult to be part of the conversation of what's actually going on. What's up, you, Willie? How's it going? Z says, hey, man, why should we not all declare war on Israel? I mean, I don't think that that's necessary. Maybe we can just stop sending them money and weapons. Like, that seems to be a better use of our time, right? As opposed to getting into another forever war with a former ally. Right? We're going to get into a war with Israel and then just going to be shooting all our bullets and our bombs back at us. The ones that we sold to them and gave to them, they're just going to be using to attack us. Doesn't seem like a great move. All right. Welcome, everybody. Willie says, did you hear about the citizens of Minneapolis getting nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize? I did, and I am for it. Dope as hell. We should be, I mean, they are heroes. Like the people living in Minnesota who have been standing up against ICE, who have been doing the work for the rest of the country and communicating to the Trump administration and just basically the country in general, what is happening, how ICE is behaving, and the fact that we are not going to fucking put up with it. They're doing the we're mad as hell shit for us. And so 100% they deserve that. Melissa says, I watched some of your comment on YouTube. You're very, oh, thank you, Melissa. I really appreciate that. Did you watch my special, I'm Worried, that I just put out? Mad Dog says, it's embarrassing that other countries are responding to the Epstein files, but the U.S. not so much. I mean, that's because the people who are implicated in it are currently in charge of the government and the Justice Department. Muzz King, Triska, thank you so much for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. Guillermo says, are you pro-ICE? No, I am not. Not even a little bit. I've been anti-ICE for a long time. Okay, I'm really glad that you like the special, Melissa. Willie says, it's honestly so cool that they can collectively be nominated for it. Yeah, I'm curious if this has ever happened before. I'm curious if there's who collects the prize, if they end up winning it, shit like that. Z says, do you think legal immigration has any value? Oh, of course, Z. Immigrants are a net positive on every country that they go to. They provide more in tax revenue than they take out in government services. They commit crimes at lower rates than citizens. Yeah, they are extremely valuable to the country, especially as we are currently in, not population decline, but in birth rate decline. There are 0 states in America that are reproducing at a rate to replace all of the people who are dying in America. Cupid Stunt says, bro's just blatantly lying. Can you tell me one thing that I've said that you think is inaccurate? CEO Had Enough says, is capitalism over? I don't think it's over, but I definitely think we need a little bit more socialism and communism. Arvin says, I think that both sides are dividing the nation. I think we should stand together. I mean, I think it is true that we shouldn't be fighting with our voters, Arvin, but there are radically different things that happen based on who is in charge. So I'm going to continue advocating for people to vote for Democrats and against Republicans because the country is better and everybody's lives are easier if Democrats are in charge. Blue Like China says, Who has the higher literacy rate, Cuba or the US? I do not know. Guillermo says, is this generation the opposites of the baby boomer generation? I'm sure an argument could be made, though I don't have the specifics on hand to make that argument myself. Melissa, Triska, Lindsay, Cupid Stunt, thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. And I do not feel bad about blocking Cupid Stunt, even though they sent me a rose because they were saying that I'm a liar, which I am not. All right, Lindsay Reed says, what about the racist tweet from Trump? Okay, so here's the thing. You know how we're all out here saying that the Epstein files are a distraction from Venezuela, and Venezuela is a distraction from the concentration camps, and the concentration camps are a distraction from Greenland and shit like that? This is the distraction. Like Trump retweeting a racist video about the Obamas, that's the distraction. That's the thing that we should go, oh my God, racist does racist shit. You know, wow, what a headline. Stop the fucking presses, you know? Yeah, I don't give a shit. I refuse to waste time being annoyed or angry at that. It is the exact same shit that he's always been doing. My number one priority is still protecting American citizens from shit like ICE and concentration camps and our rapidly increasing costs of living. Lindsay Musking, thank you so much for helping me reach my third gift goal of the day. And you know what that means, everybody? It is finger hearts o'clock. Best time of the day. Already. Guillermo says, thoughts on Turning Point USA upcoming halftime performers, same day as the annual Super Bowl. Yeah, let's make it even more clear how much the right is losing the culture war. Like, you are going to be putting up a bunch of decrepit losers, and on the Super Bowl, we're going to be seeing, like, some of the hottest performers on the planet. Like, yeah, enjoy your worst show. Maybe you would like to join us sometime to enjoy some good art. I had this joke in my stand-up, like, back in 2016, where the artists themselves, like, lefties have all the best stuff. People are throwing away their fucking Beyonce tickets and their Hamilton tickets and shit like that. Like, that would change my mind if it was the other way around. Like, if Republicans had all the best, you know, musicians and movie makers and actors and plays and shit like that, and the only thing that we had was Kid Rock, that might convince me to, like, build a wall. All right. John Abbott says, Fork Fountain Kitchen. That's way better. That is way better, John Abbott. Triska says, what's happening in Texas politics right now? Turning blue, Tallarico, and racism. So I don't know about the Tallarico accusations. They seem a little thin to me. You know, just based on the information that's out there, it's, you know, like, I believe it was just, what's his name? Colin Allred basically saying some shit. And I just don't buy it. Tallarico doesn't seem like that kind of guy. But I also don't think that we should be too confident in what the electoral success of Democrats has been in the past year-ish. You know, there's still a lot of work to be done. It was a low turnout election. So, you know, anything can happen in low turnout special elections. It's a great thing that has happened, and I am buoyed by it, but the work does not stop. You know, there are certain things that happen, and I worry that people are going to take their foot off the gas. This is not that thing. Put your fucking foot on the gas, guys. Keep it there. Max Schmidt says, no hate on Bad Buddy. I respect his success, but majority of people can't understand his music. No, almost nobody sings in English. Have you ever heard Nirvana? Do you remember when Nirvana came out with Smells Like Teen Spirit and nobody fucking knew what fucking, what's the dude's, not Eddie Vedder, he's Pearl Jam. Fucking Kurt Cobain was saying? I remember the news. I remember the news covering it. They were going up to people and being like, what do you think the lyrics of Smells Like Teen Spirit are? So yeah, I don't give a fuck if Bad Bunny isn't singing in English. Nobody sings in English. Let's see here. Le James says, I don't think Donald Trump is inherently racist. I just think he needs something to exploit for money. I think he's racist. Mayan says, do you like Trump? No, I do not. Guillermo says, I think many pro-Trumpers will secretly be watching the Super Bowl, 100%. And I hope they hear Green Day, because Green Day, I'm confident, is going to say some shit. Like, Green Day does not mince words where Donald Trump and authoritarianism and fascism is concerned. And I fucking love them for it. You know, I wasn't into Green Day when I was a kid. But fucking hell, do I love them now. La Legend de Ecuador says, do you think Trump refuses to leave? We can just outright arrest. it's going to be difficult for us to see any kind of legal accountability for Trump and the people in his orbit because they're very powerful and they're very wealthy. In addition to having the institutions kind of behind him, like the Supreme Court, like the DOJ right now, it will take us doing a ton of work in order to see that kind of accountability. So if he refuses to leave office, potentially that could be a check mark in our favor, but there is still a ton of work that needs to be done if we want that to happen. Cuz 808 says, what do you think should happen to everyone on those files? I think that there should be social ramifications where we can't prove that they did anything wrong, but where they have been proven to have been engaging in PDF activity, fucking right to jail. Left, right, or center, right or jail. What's up, Alina the Starbird? Good to see you. RM18 says, when Democrats finally regain power, what, in your opinion, are the top priorities to erase some of the damage Trump has done? Oh, thank you, RM. I really appreciate you saying that you liked my special. So I do get this question sometimes, and I don't know exactly what the order should be of things that we need to do. I think that the order should start with making sure that the other progress that we do can't be stopped. So I think probably priority one should be adding seats to the Supreme Court, because anything that we are able to legally pass, if we get Democrats into a majority in the Senate, could then potentially be undone by the Supreme Court. User a whole bunch of numbers says, stop thinking Democrats and Republicans is the ruling class and the working class. And you're half right, user a whole bunch of numbers, because it is true that the billionaire class wants us fighting amongst ourselves, but the Republican Party is working with the billionaire class, and the Democratic Party is not. And so I will continue to advocate for people voting for Democrats and against Republicans. That narrative is sort of like taking people out of the political process, and so I don't agree with it. But yeah, just a couple other thoughts. Passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which would make it easier for people to vote and would end partisan gerrymandering, add seats to the House, rebalance the Senate, break up monopolies. We got to get Lena Khan back in there. She was doing great work. Campaign finance regulations, undoing all of the Doge cuts, getting USAID back out there. Maybe the Climate Corps would be great, because we're right now in the middle of a growing unemployment crisis. Like, it's on the horizon, like it's coming. And so what better time to hire every American to be part of replacing our energy grid with renewable, safe, clean energy jobs? The thing fucking does itself, Alex 10 says, what do you think about the Armenian situation? I don't know anything about it. Foreign policy is not my strong suit. Willie says, did you hear Trump administration, FBI, DHS, DOJ are meeting to discuss a way to nationalize the midterms? I did hear that, and I'm worried about it, but I am more concerned about the things that would be easier for them to accomplish. Like, nationalizing elections is fully unconstitutional. Like, Article 1 powers say that the states control their own elections. So I'm not too concerned about that. I mean, we can't usually count on the Supreme Court to do the right thing. But again, I don't see why they would try to do this, which has like a degree of difficulty of 11, when easier things would be, like sending ICE into Democratic cities to beat people up as they're trying to vote, and blocking roads in, Democratic areas so people can't get to the polls, and sending the FBI to seize voter machines. Like, those are the things that I think we should be really concerned about. And those are the things that I think we should be on the phone with our governors and mayors and secretaries of state to be like, I want to make sure you guys have a contingency plan for this. I want to make sure that you guys are already thinking about this. Okay. Eliana says, how are you? How's everyone doing? Everyone's doing great. Do I know you? Because you're talking to me like you know me, which I'm fine with. I'm just curious. Aliana the Starbird. Let's see here. John Abbott says, Steve Bannon literally said this is the strategy before it all started. Yes, 100%. Completely agree with that. Okay. Awesome Sauce says, Trump is scared that red states are turning blue. Now he doesn't want them to run their own elections. 100% accurate. Jimbo Jones says, Jesus H. Christ, how much is Israel donating to you? Your advice is subpar. Israel does not donate any money to me, Jimbo Jones. Maybe ask a question, be part of the conversation instead of just lobbying baseless accusations at people that you disagree with or that you're being paid to disagree with. Guillermo says, do you think artists should voice their opinions on politics or keep quiet to protect their career? I think everybody should be voicing their opinions on politics. I don't give a shit if you are right wing or left wing or a basketball player or a country star. Everybody should be talking about politics, especially now when there is such a dire need for people to understand how psychotic and drastic and dangerous what our government is engaged in. The level of corruption, the level of ignoring our human and civil rights is just, it's off the pale. It's off the charts. Ooh, Odinson thinking Republicans and Democrats have different agendas is hilarious. No, it's not. It's accurate, Odinson. Would you like me to prove it to you? Respond in the comments. Mad Dog says, if you have a platform, then use it. Accurate. Jimbo Jones says, listening to your answers, you're definitely being paid. Well, congratulations, Jimbo. I gave you an opportunity to not do dumb shit like you just said, and you missed it. So congratulations, you're out of here. Okay, let's see here. Scrolling up. Digital Mika says, I think they're going to pull out all the things to win 26 and 28. Yeah, they're going to try all the cheating and lying and stealing to try to win the elections in 26 and 28. We just have to make sure that we're prepared so that they fail, you know? Fletch Lives Again says, who do you think Trump's day-to-day strategists are behind him telling him what to do? Stephen Miller is the de facto president of the United States right now. He's also the de facto head of the FBI. He is also the de facto head of Homeland Security. He's also the de facto head of the Department of Justice. Like, he is basically the entire government right now. Trump is currently his vice president in charge of his own Twitter account. And chief executive of knocking down government buildings and then building them back up with his stupid fucking name on them. Mike Decker says, just like a liberal, if they don't like what you say, they take you off so you can't get your voice. Nope, that's not what happens, Mike. I don't know if you recall, but I gave that person an opportunity to engage in good faith, and instead they just called me a liar and said that I was being paid by Israel. So false on all counts. You're blocked also. You can't even hear what I'm saying. Ancient Wisdom says, if you were president right now, what would you do? I mean, there are a lot of things that I would do. Let's see. Let's go to my list. End gerrymandering, add seats to the House, rebalance the Senate, add seats to the Supreme Court, break up monopolies, campaign finance regulations so that billionaires can't buy elections, a climate course so that we can replace our current energy grid with green energy, common sense gun control legislation, gun licenses and insurance mandatory, return independence and oversight to the government. One of the first things that Trump did in 2025 is he fired all of the oversight and inspectors general so that now we don't even know about all the criminality that is going on in the government because they fired all the people that are supposed to tell us about it. Eliminated the presidential pardon. It has been abused to the point where I don't think that it has any value. Abolish ICE, raise taxes on the rich, Medicare for all, no more money or weapons for war criminals, Netanyahu, and end fossil fuel subsidies and replace those with subsidies for green renewable energy. Awesome Sauce says, abolish the electoral college too, right? Yeah, but that would be difficult to do on a federal level. But if we could just get states to sign up for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, then we could just get rid of the electoral college that way. Andrew J. Rivers, great to see you again. My hilarious friend from Stand Up says, presidential Twitter passwords should be more complex than nuclear codes. Completely agree with that. My buddy Andrew J. Rivers, we both know this stand-up named Georgia who was stuck in the snow in South Carolina, and she texted a whole bunch of her friends saying, hey, recommend me some stand-up specials. And I sent her like a whole bunch, and Andrew J. Rivers just sent her his. So there you go. Willie says, what do you think the U.S. should do about the drug epidemic? That is an excellent question, Willie. Kimberlina says, did you say ranked choice too? No, I didn't, but I'll put that on the list. Rank choice voting. Andrew Rivers says, LOL, that is not true, LOL. Yes, it is, Andrew, and you know it too. Search your heart, you know it to be true. So yeah, what do we do about the drug epidemic? It's difficult to talk about this because it's technically like adult content, and so I could get like flagged for talking about things that are inappropriate for children. Basically, I believe we need to follow the model of the way that certain states have been dealing with gardening for certain substances. For other substances, we need to decriminalize so that people can actually seek the care that they need for their addiction issues without fear of legal retribution. Yeah, I think that we just need to grow up. The country needs to grow up with regards to substance abuse and stop thinking about this as individual responsibility and people just trying to party and then getting in trouble, you know, like, yeah, You know, like that. Yeah, that's the short version. Okay, let's see here. Mr. R says, I don't agree with a popular vote. Only reason we are still a country is because of the Electoral College. I completely disagree with that, Mr. R. Kimberlina says, universal health care for people to get proper mental health support. 100%. I love that. Ali listens. I'll listen. I listen. I'll listen. I think it's all listen. Says, and we should look at how other countries deal with those issues. 100%. Dark Comedy says, who do you think Epstein worked for? I think he probably worked for himself. You know, I don't know, though. Allison. Yeah, I like Allison, but I'll respect you, Allison. I'll call you by name. Rocky said Trump won the popular vote and the Electoral College in 2024, but he is one of few Republicans who can claim to have done that. Ancient Wisdom says some people have less dopamine receptors, and that's where addictive personalities come from. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's potential that GLP-1s can help with a lot of these addiction issues. Real Bendis says, do you believe the end game with Maduro was always Cuba? I think it's one piece of a complicated puzzle. My name here says legalize and all taxes sent to education. I love that idea. Real Benda, I already did that one. Let's see what's going on over on Twitch and YouTube. John Abbott says, you regularly say that you oppose this government and their actions and call them out for doing G-side. You're definitely getting paid by them. How silly. I'm glad that you really liked that Andrew trolling our friend with his own stand-up special. Awesome Sauce. Quick Google search, and Trump did indeed win the popular vote. Yes, he did. Rocky says, California had 450,000 people that got called to jury duty, couldn't serve because weren't citizens, but they vote. That is inaccurate, Rocky. People who are not citizens are not allowed to vote in federal elections. Carmine says, what are you reading next? I'm reading a book called... it's called something like Doing Nothing is Unacceptable. I forget the exact name of it. Rocky says, stats show Trump's ICE has been more ethical and successful. So you're just here to say lies, Rocky. So guess what? You're out of here. Alrighty. Let's see here. Threat, it looks like a double helix or something is your name. Says, do you think the hate on communism is heavy Western propaganda? I think a lot of it is, 100%. I mean, we're still dealing with the after effects of the Red Scare, where certain people don't actually know what communism is. They just think communism equals bad. And so they can be told that something is communism, then they'll automatically be like, oh, okay, that's bad. Like, somebody could be like, vegetables is communism. And they'd be like, all right, well, never fucking eating those again, that's for sure. Mad Dog says, jury pool is pulled from driver's licenses. Sounds right to me. Awesome Sauce is not a political book, but have you read Wuthering Heights? I have not read Wuthering Heights. The last non-political book that I read was called The Wager, which was it was a fictionalized nonfiction book. Narrative nonfiction is what it was, about this famous shipwreck that happened, I think, like in the 1700s or something like that. Excellent read. Cannot recommend highly enough The Wager. Allison says, can you help me sign up to get paid? Have been doing this for free all year. The Wager was very interesting. Yeah, I would love to. I don't know why I'm not getting my George Soros or my Netanyahu checks, you know. You Serious Leather says, was Epstein working for Mossad? I don't know if he was or not, but it seems like because he had access to so much sensitive information about powerful and rich people, that he was actively engaged with people that wanted to exploit that information, and potentially that was other intelligence agencies. Turner Boy Matt says, Democratic Tea Party here. I would never call myself like a Tea Party-ish person, but I definitely believe that the Democratic Party is way better than the Republican Party. Right. Let's see here. Ancient Wisdom says left communism versus tankies. I mean, communists and tankies fighting feels a little bit like Protestants and Catholics fighting. It's like you agree on 99% of things. Like what is going on here? Ancient Wisdom says if Bernie Sanders ran in 28, would you vote for him in the primary? I think he's too old. I think that Bernie Sanders is too old. I like him a lot. I was an original Bernie stan before anybody even fucking knew what his name was. I was ringing the Bernie Sanders bell. But yeah, he's too old, you know. He's too old. La Legend says, how's the Democratic Party a tea party? We don't have any tea to drink. I'm confused. I feel exact same as you do. Andrew J. Rivers says, Jared's stomach can't handle tea. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. It gives me acid reflux. Joe says, do you have any constituencies in the U.S. I mean, I'm not an elected official, so I guess I don't have any constituencies in the U.S., but I live in America. I was born and raised here, you know. Georgia Warner says, would you vote for Andrew Rivers? You know, Georgia, I told everybody the story that you told me about Andrew J. Rivers only sending you his special, and Andrew J. Rivers is denying it. So how are we going to square this circle? How are we going to figure out what's actually going on here? La Legend says, I like making Jarrett laugh. It's fun. I appreciate that. Exo says, what do you think about the UK Prime Minister? So I don't know too much about UK politics. I have just kind of like a surface level understanding of it. I know that I'm Labour as opposed to being a Tory. I'm a left-wing guy, so I'm going to like the left-wing party. And I wonder, because I know that everybody's yelling at Keir Starmer right now and telling him he's doing a terrible job. But I wonder if the Labour Party suffers from the same thing that we suffer for in America regarding narratives around the Democratic Party, where there are structural inequities that make it harder for Democrats to both win elections and get their job done when they are elected. And also, people yell at the Democrats no matter what they do. I call them Schrodinger's political party because they're simultaneously too far to the left and too far to the right and doing too much and doing too little. The same people who will yell at you and tell you that Biden had open borders will then also say that Biden and Obama deported more people than Trump. So why weren't we yelling at them during the time, you know? So, yeah, I wonder if Labor is not suffering from that same bias where people just yell at them no matter what they do. Oh, Andrew Rivers says, Georgia told me you donated to Tulsi Gabbard. That is a bald-faced lie. Mr. R says it's because he knew Mandelson had Epstein ties and still put him as U.S. ambassador. Again, I don't know anything about UK politics, so, you know, you can let me know what the deal is there. The Robert Castro says, I feel like we need to get you a gig giving a breakdown of today's news like the Daily Show cold open. Yeah, I'm down for that. If, you know, let's have a massive writing campaign. I wonder if the 4 people that are watching on Twitch and YouTube and the 86 people on TikTok can, you know, do a massive writing campaign to get me that kind of work. I don't know if you guys have that kind of industry juice, but if you do, fucking use it. That's what I say. Blair Cohen says, are borders to keep people out or to keep people in? I believe they're to keep people out, mostly. I'm back says, hello there, sir. Hello back. I'm back says, make me laugh. I am not here to work for you for free, sir. Okay. Martin Vasquez says, why do people continue to call politicians Democratic? Well, some politicians are Democrats and some politicians are Republicans. Carmine says, bet there's some racism sprinkled on there too. I forget what we were talking about that necessitated that that comment. Georgia got me with the release the Rivers files. Excellent work, Georgia. So I think, Georgia, when you are here, you make Rivers funnier and vice versa. I love the two of you guys being in the chat at the same time. Lever 2K says, thoughts on Epstein list? Do you see any arrests happening? Not while the Trump administration is currently in charge. I think it's possible that we see some either accountability or throwing under the bus happening for Donald Trump's enemies using the information that was released in the Epstein files. Like, I don't know if there's incriminating evidence in there about people that Donald Trump hates, like the Clintons. If there is, throw him in jail. I don't give a fuck. But I also don't put it past this administration to make shit up. Like, they have already doctored photos and put them in the Epstein files and then released those. So we cannot trust the government. We cannot trust the Department of Justice. We cannot trust the feds on any level. It's psychotic. You know, people have been talking like this for a long time, like during the Obama administration and during Biden. They were like, man, you just can't trust the government, man. And it's like, no, we could a little bit back then, but now we can zero. And there is a massive difference between what they were doing then and what is happening right now. So, yeah, the Trump administration will potentially use the information in the Epstein files or make up information in the Epstein files to throw Donald Trump's perceived enemies in jail. But as far as like Republicans and billionaire buddies of Donald Trump, they are going to see zero accountability because, again, we are looking at straight lawfare coming out of this administration. Mr. R says, we've never been able to trust the government. That is inaccurate, Mr. R. Mr. R, we've gone back and forth on this so many times. I'm getting a little tired of it. it's like there's a difference, man. There's a difference between what happens in the government depending on who is in charge, and I can argue this 1,000 different ways. But do not just make these blanket statements that are inaccurate, that are trying to depress voter turnouts. Actually engage on the substance. You are in question jail now. If you don't ask a question, then I'm going to boot you. Black Wall Street massacre and the oh my God, he found an example of the government doing something bad. You know what? I'm getting a little annoyed, Mr. R. I apologize. We've had good engagement on this live stream in the past. I want to go back into that vein. But yeah, finding specific examples. You can even show me a balance sheet that says America has been net negative. The government's been net negative on its citizens since its inception. But that does not mean that you can never trust the government. Full stop. Again, you're in question jail. If you don't ask a question next, you're booted. JP says, I can't believe people listen to Jared on purpose, Andrew Rivers. That's very funny. All right. I'm back says, without taking your shirt off. No. If I took my shirt off, you'd fucking slide off your seat because you'd be fucking so wet down there. John Abbott says, you're so funny. You make this other professional funny person better at their job is a heck of a compliment. Absolutely. I only meant it with love. Let's see here. Awesome Sauce, you're probably doing the question marks because somebody over in my Twitch or YouTube said something that you did not hear. Randall says, can a dog vote? No. Deft One Lover says, so we can't trust this administration who released the files, but we can trust the last one that didn't. Yes, Deft One Lever. Would you like me to explain why, or are you just here to spread misinformation? Randall says, I did in California. Oh, so you got that dog in you then. Let's see here. Shork says, what do you think of academics in the files who needed the money/connections? Yeah, I mean, I think that there's different types of people that were in the files. You know, it really did seem like some people used Epstein because he could get you admission to that country club or, you know, a meeting with that person. But that does not, you know, that does not mean that they also did not do terrible things, you know. So we just have to follow the evidence where it leads, I suppose. Daniel says, what are your thoughts about Palestine and Israel? I support the citizens of both of those countries. I'm against the governing bodies of both of those countries. Jacko says, should I ask the question again? I mean, if I didn't see it. Star says, are you a Trump supporter? No, I am not. The opposite. Trinity says, why does Trump want Penn Station and Dallas Airport named after him? A couple of reasons. Number one, he wants to incite people to lose their minds and go, oh, you believe that's a distraction, number one. Number two is he's a fucking psychopath who desperately needs his name on things in order to fill the galaxy-sized hole inside of his heart. Georgia Warder says, you complimented Rivers and he left live. He doesn't know how to handle positive emotions, you know? Ashosaurus says, a dog did not vote in California elections. No, that guy was making a bit about it. He's like, I'm the dog, you know? Let's see here. Daji says, how exactly does AIPAC pressure politicians into doing their bidding, just money? There's a bunch of things that AIPAC does. Really, it's any organization that has a lot of money is the issue. Daji. So yeah, the Heritage Foundation does this also. The Federalist Society does this also. Basically, they can give you money to help winning your campaign easier. They can also fund your opponent to make you losing your campaign easier. And where AIPAC is concerned, they also have the additional benefit of being able to label any politician that they want as anti-Semitic. And then that carries a lot of weight for some people. And there are a lot of people who are like, you know, I'm not going to vote for any politician who's taking AIPAC money. But it's like there are so many politicians who have tried standing up to AIPAC and then they lost their election. So it's like, what do you think they should do? You know, we the American people have rewarded politicians who have stood up to AIPAC by voting them out of office. We, the American people, have rewarded politicians trying to get us closer to Medicare for all with voting them out of office. We, as the American public, have rewarded politicians who have stood with unions and walked the picket line with voting them out of office. So how much of this is politicians needing to be more brave or politicians recognizing the incentive structure? Let's see here. Ungoverned TV says, right, there are over 12,000 registered lobbyists in the advocacy cluster. AIPAC is one and small. Accurate. Real Bendis says, do you Alan Dershowitz, when he says he visited Epstein only as his lawyer, seems plausible. I don't know. That dude is always in the wrong place at the wrong time. So yeah, I don't really trust that dude as far as I can throw him. Jocko says, how can communism support personal professional skills? Example being a top esports player. That is an excellent question, Jocko. So there's a difference between looking at communism as an economic model and a government system. So pretty much everybody that I know that advocates for some level of communism in America is talking about it as an economic model as opposed to a government. People that complain about communism are usually talking about it being a government system where the government owns everything and so you're not able to have your own business if you don't want to. What we mean by communism in the economic system is making things more equitable for the working class, where the working class is creating all the value. So why are they getting so little of the benefits? Companies being employee owned, like Publix grocery stores or Bob's Red Mill, they make the oatmeal and shit like that. So let's have a little bit more of that. I would argue that a law saying that companies have to have representatives on their board from the lowest paid employees is essentially communist. So how would that affect like top athletes and shit like that? Easy. Why aren't the teams owned by the players? Why are the teams always owned by like one shitty billionaire and like their fates are tied to the whims of this one fucking shitty billionaire? Sometimes that shitty billionaire is like a hardcore racist. Look at the dude who used to own the fucking Clippers. Jocko says, that's what I've been saying about communism, good with economics, bad at politics. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. Hydra says, is our president a PDF? We don't know for sure, but there is a lot of smoke there. There is a lot of circumstantial evidence, shall we say. Okay, Nuggets Lord says, do you think that Ukraine will last long enough to win? I don't know if Ukraine will last long enough to win. I do think that Ukraine can maintain in a war of attrition, but I don't know if they'll eventually be victorious over Russia. Shork says, are you surprised that SCOTUS ruled 9-0 to allow California's Prop 50? I am surprised, but I'm also a little bit worried. Like sometimes the justices will do these feints in order to justify when they do shittier things in the future, like, eliminating the Voting Rights Act, for example. So now all of these deep red states that have been buoyed by not being able to do racial gerrymanders are now going to suddenly be able to do that. Let's see here. Exo says, do you think the emails that were deleted by Hillary Clinton were in regarding to Epstein? I don't. There's been so much misinformation about the Hillary Clinton emails. What I understood from that scandal at the time was that there was nothing interesting in those emails whatsoever. Alrighty, let's see here. Oh, I did have a joke about Trump wanting to rename Penn Station after him. And my joke is, to be fair, it would be a very easy switch. You could even keep the letters P and E. Do you guys get that joke? I was worried that it might be a little bit too subtle. Josh says, yeah, so not interesting that they destroyed them. I mean, I delete emails all the time that are not destroyed. Am I also, there you go. Awesome sauce. Yeah. You can even add an O to the end of that. Yeah. Are all of my emails sus that I delete? Let's see here. Dan Blackbird says most of the emails were confirming things like standing hair appointments. Dan Blackbird, I trust that dude. J.S. Knoll says, why the fuck would I ask you about politics? Maybe you have a question. Maybe you want to know what the filibuster is. Maybe you don't know what the three branches of government are. I'm here to answer your questions, be they simple or complicated. J.S. Knoll. Maybe you're curious about whether the government has any legal right to explode boats off the coast of Venezuela. Jersey Rican says, do you think they are hiding something? That's why they don't want the Clintons to testify in public? Yes. Yes, I do. Okay. Scrolling up, looking for more comments. Ashasaurus says, wait, we voted on Prop 50. Why did it go to SCOTUS? SCOTUS has the legal right to decide whether bills that are passed at the state and federal level are constitutional or unconstitutional. So, for example, a state could pass a law eliminating birthright citizenship, and then that could go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court would go, you're not allowed to pass a law that says that ending birthright citizenship, because birthright citizenship is in the Constitution. You would need to have a constitutional amendment. You would need to have a constitutional conference, I think it's called. I forget the name of it. All right, Jersey Regan says, what do you think of the safety of the midterms? It is in question, Jersey Regan, but it is not futile. We need to do the work right now to protect the midterm elections in the future. So everybody, every single one of us, should be on the phones with our representatives at the state and local level and asking them, what are you doing to protect our elections from a federal government that is hostile to free and fair elections? Kimberlina says, did you hear about the U.S. joining the Geneva Consensus? I didn't hear anything about that. Badger75 says, Continental Congress? It might be. I don't remember. I thought it had the word commission in it, or Constitutional Convention. I think it's Constitutional Convention, actually. Josh says, they were deleted after the courts subpoenaed them. Don't buy it, Josh. Nitsa Olmo says, did you see the interview where Trump says he likes Bill Clinton? I did. That's an old one, wasn't it? Josh, would you like to engage in good faith, or are you just here to say statements that are contradicting the things that I am saying? Because that's not the kind of live stream that I like to have. If you disagree with me politically, I want to engage with you. I want you to ask me questions, and I want to go back and forth about what you believe, and we can discuss like what's actually going on in the government and in the country. But if you're just here to say, no, this guy's a liar, fuck you, then you can leave whenever the hell you like. Alrighty, Milky, hello back. Welcome to the party. All right, so let's see here. Scrolling up. Yeah, we got 100 people watching, and not too many questions. Kim Buckman, great to see you again, says, Trump said he liked Bill Clinton a few days. It was a few days ago? That's weird. Josh says, it happened, just stating facts. Again, no, you're not, Josh. So you are in question jail. If you don't ask a question with your next comment, then you're out of here. Congratulations. Right, scrolling up. Yeah, 100 people watching. Very few questions, though, today. Goes of the Gozerian says, I mean, it seems like all the billionaires were involved with Epstein, so how can you trust a system that can be bought? Excellent question, Goes of the Gozerian. The way that I would say this is, we have the ability to vote for people who represent us. And so how about we vote for people that are going to try to reduce the influence of money in government, to reduce the way that money can make you unaccountable for your crimes. Because those people exist. There are some of those people who are in government right now. Some of those people have done that work in the past. And we are currently in an administration that is undoing all of those gains. So why don't we just do that again? Why don't we just do that going forward? Jersey Rican says, do you think we can turn Texas blue? It's definitely possible. It's just going to be really hard. Rob says, who do you have for the Super Bowl, Seahawks or Patriots? I like the Seahawks because some of the players on the team in the past, like Legion of Boom and the dude with the curls, I forget what his name was. I thought they were great characters, and also my sister lives in Seattle, so I like the Seahawks. Let's see here. Period says, how epic are the slowed Macarena U.S. military edits? I haven't seen any of those. Mia Zalvi Adventures says, what can we do about Trump suing the IRS for $10 billion? That's our money. The same thing that we do every day, Mia Zalvi Adventures. Striking, boycotting, protesting, putting political pressure on our representatives, business leaders, and rich people and corporations. We organize, we vote, we recruit, we convince. That is the only thing that we can do at this point. Big Sip says, most people don't know, but Texas isn't nearly as red as it seems. It's just super gerrymandered. It's not only is it gerrymandered, but it's heavily voter suppressed. So what they do is they close down polling locations in blue areas so that the wait is like 20 hours long to get in there to vote. Ungoverned TV says, you have great hair. I will give you that. Oh, what a sweet thing to say. BitNevo says, other governments are reporting that Epstein appears like a KGB asset. What ripples from this? I think what we're going to see is some accountability for people in Europe and other countries, but because the current American government is benefiting from connections with hostile foreign actors like Russia, we are not going to see a full breakdown of accountability and removing people that are actively engaged in espionage and sabotage against the country of America. All animals' lives matter says, why are Democrats crazy? Democrats are not crazy. All animal lives matter. Would you like to ask a question in good faith, or would you like to leave? The Fixer Mike says, I remember hair. It was nice. Very fun. I'm back says, I've been having trouble this past week since these new Epstein files were dropped. What exactly trouble have you been having? Is it difficult recognizing that so many people at the higher levels of society and government have been involved with a PDF for a really long time, you know? Big Sips has just changed my voter info in Texas, and the person told me we don't know if voter cards will be in time for the midterms. Seems pretty sus to me. Big sus, pretty sus to me. All right, congratulations, all lives matter. All animal lives matter. You are out of here. My God, my wife just texted me, what was the rapiest restaurant you ever worked for? What a funny text to get out of nowhere. Sowell says, do you believe the Muslim ban in Trump's first term was bad? Yes, 100%. Shork says, are the Elon Musk emails believed real right now? They are believed to be real right now. And even if we did not get that confirmation, I would believe them, because Woody Allen and Jeffrey Epstein saying that Elon Musk is such a fucking dork and is weird and they don't want to hang out with him. Classic. Absolutely accurate, you know? Leave it to Elon Musk to be so fucking charmless and weird that even pedophiles are like, no thank you, don't want to hang out with that guy, do not endorse. Tina Moss has just got my notice. Voting cards will be sent next week in Texas. Glad to hear that. Kimberlina says, I can name mine instantly. Owners dreamed of Epps Island. What does that mean? Jersey Regan says, are they spamming your live? Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Fletch Lives Again says, question, the Clintons in front of Congress, but not Trump, who is in the files way more. Yeah, you know, hopefully the Democrats can get Trump in there either, you know, through a tit-for-tat kind of agreement with Republicans, bringing in the Clintons, or Democrats can take over the House and the Senate in the midterms, and then they will be able to, you know, bring him in then. All right, the Fixer Mike says, the weird stuff is still happening just elsewhere, nowhere, no one is getting arrested. Yeah, I think there's probably some accuracy there. Andrew says, so is it confirmed that Trump doesn't run his own Truth Social account? I have no idea. I think that there are times when he doesn't, but I also think that there are times when he does. Kimberlina says, the R word is restaurant I worked for. Are we not saying that anymore, Kimberlina? Is that triggering for some people? I definitely don't want to upset anybody. I'm back says, when I was 13 years old, I saw my sister getting assaulted by my uncle. I'm really sorry to hear that. I'm back. That really bothers me. And I hope that you and your sister were both able to get the kind of mental health care to try to deal with some of that trauma. Alrighty, let's see here. The Fixer Mike says, the fact that Clintons were refused from testifying in open committee says everything. You know, the Fixer Mike, I think that you sometimes have this doomerous attitude. Like, remember how originally we started engaging on the idea that the files were never going to be released, and here we are, you know? So, you know, I don't think that we can say for certain what certain things mean. We kind of have to be active participants in history, and also we kind of have to wait for history to happen at the same time. Jersey Rican says, did you see the arrest of the Benghazi case? I saw that the Trump administration said that they did something with Benghazi, but again, you can't really trust anything that they say. So I didn't actually read the article yet, so that's still on my to-do list. Conda says, what's the difference between a Democrat and a Republican? There are a lot of difference between Democratic politicians and Republican politicians, and the Democratic platform and the Republican platform, and the governing histories of the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party. So I could talk on this for 20 hours, Conda. So is there like a specific issue that you would like me to focus on specifically that I can tell you the difference between Democrats and Republicans? Short version is the Republican platform is just cut taxes for the rich. The Democratic platform is the government can be a source of good, so maybe we should use it, and maybe we can tax the rich to pay for a bunch of programs that would help everybody. Jersey Rican says, is it weird how they have all these new arrests with the pipe bomber and now Benghazi. This is weird for a distraction. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what's going on there. I don't know if it's legit. Yeah, you cannot trust this government, unfortunately. Nitzia Olmo says the Clintons said they would testify in public, not behind closed doors. That is accurate. Great to see you again, 1974 Ford Pinto wagon. John Abbott says, I saw it pointed out last night that all the rich people started funding LLM chatbots shortly after the Epstein, actually after Epstein was convicted. Interesting. So, large language models during the Trump's first administration started getting funded. It's not impossible, and it tracks with what the billionaire, it tracks with their incentives. I just don't know where the technology was at that time. I don't know if that is historically possible for them to have done that. It seems a little thin, but, I'm not going to die on that mountain regardless. It's interesting. I would love to know how true that is. Jersey Rican says, did you hear about all these layoffs? I mean, they've been happening for a while now. Everybody's struggling. We are at the precipice of an unemployment crisis, and the president is building a ballroom and an arch and redoing the Kennedy Center and trying to get Penn Station named after him. All right, star emoji says, people need to stop harassing Billie Eilish. 100%. Mr. Calmanor says, how do you feel about cream cheese? I've never been a big fan of cream cheese. RC says, are you for or against the proposed wealth tax in California? Seems like a band-aid to a bigger problem. I don't know about the nuts and bolts of that issue, but I generally am for a progressive tax structure that taxes the rich at higher rates than we tax everybody else. Bit Nevo says, are there any Democrats that should face constituents in trial, and why is it John Fetterman? I mean, we can get to the trial eventually, but let's have them lose the primary first. 2012 Lego Batman says, opinion on Israel influence on the West. I am against the influence of money in politics, whether that is AIPAC or Heritage or Federalist or whatever. And so, yes, I do believe that Israel has too much power and sway over what our politicians do, especially regarding sending money and weapons to Israel. But I also have a problem with what Heritage is doing, what Federalist is doing as well. And I should point out that there are a record number of Democrats that have been voting against sending money and weapons to Israel. So if that is an issue that you care about, then 100% you should continue voting for Democrats or start voting for Democrats. Kimberlina says, is Fetterman up for re-election? I believe his primary is not until 2030. I could be wrong about that. Pink Squirrel says, the cream cheese question is suspicious. Yeah, I'm sure it's an anti-Semitic dog whistle, but I'll let that one slide until something else happens with that person. Dolly says, will our taxes pay for Trump's lawsuits? Yes. Trump is more in Danish news than actually Danish news. I apologize for that, star emojis. Razanak says, what do you think about the politics of language such as Scots Gaelic getting support in Scotland? I don't know enough about that to talk on it, unfortunately. Lemmy Gardenmeister says 28 for Fetterman. All right, so yeah, get rid of Fetterman in the 28 primary. T says, what is a woman? I know what your question is, T. I know that you're trying to get like a liberal to say that they don't know what a woman is. But if you ask actual biologists and geneticists this question, they will tell you that it is much more complicated than just who has a vagina and who has a peener. So you can miss me with that nonsense. Alrighty, I'm back. Just posted a very long thing about the abuse that they were telling me about. Severely bulimic. I'm really sorry to hear that. Should have told anybody about this. I happened to see it because we were at my grandma's at the time. There's only me and my sister and my uncle and my grandma. I'm really sorry to hear that. I'm back. And I hope that this is help. I hope that sharing this information with us is helping. But you don't have to if you don't want to, of course. John Abbott says they shouldn't be allowed to call them layoffs. Layoffs are people being let go because of economic conditions. These companies are getting record profits. They're firing people to replace them with AI. That is 100% accurate, John Abbott. Yeah, it's not necessary financially. It is just because the rich want to be richer. And there are no regulations to stop them, so why the fuck wouldn't they? Why the fuck would they not act like the worst version of kings and queens that don't give a fuck what happens to their peasant class? Ms. Gonna Be Alright Someday says, I think the cream cheese question was referring to emails comparing the taste of cream cheese to babies. All right, well, similarly weird. Andrew says, did Epstein really win the Powerball twice? I have no idea. if that is true. And, you know, that thing about the cream cheese babies thing is accurate. That I really do stand by my comment that I've never been a fan of cream cheese. Okay, the Fixer Mike says, "Golly, I want to moderate these people into orbit." Well, Fixer Mike, I don't know. I don't know if you're at that level yet, the Fixer Mike. But I think you're definitely on the right track. I don't have like a set policy for who gets to be a moderator. But I just kind of feel it out. You know, I am mercurial. I am the fascist dictator of my own live stream. Mr. Cowmanure says, "How many times do you think Trump went to Epstein's Island?" I don't know. I think he was probably considering putting Mar-a-Lago there. Oh, Levivid says, "Are we living through another Gilded Age? What are ways to overcome it?" Excellent question. Oh, Levivid. Are you still here? Let me know. So technically, income inequality is worse now than it was during the Gilded Age. So the Gilded Age, which we named after how bad the income inequality was, the income inequality is worse right now. So take that for however you like. What do we do about it? The things that we do about it are, number one, we need to teach the billionaire class that they can't buy elections. And so the first thing we need to do is recognize which political party is doing more work for the billionaire class, which political party's platform is a giveaway to the billionaire class. And the answer to that, full stop, is the Republican Party. So we got to get the Republican Party out of government. Full stop. We have to unelect every single Republican from president to dog catcher, because that will communicate to the billionaire class, like, we are not fucking buying what you are selling any longer. That's number one. Number two is we got to tax them. We got to tax them so that they are no longer billionaires. Every billionaire is a policy failure. I read that on somebody's Twitter handle a little while ago, somebody who worked for AOC at some point. Yeah, tax them into oblivion. Tax them until they do not exist anymore. Mr. Cowmanure says, "Every first lady swings like a horse below the waist." You know what, Mr. Cowmanure? You are out of here. Chris says, "The U.S. has the largest wealth inequality gap in history and largest gap out of developed countries." That completely tracks for me. I don't know if it's accurate, but it 100% tracks for me. Alrighty. BitNevo says, "Andy Yang ran for office. He warned about the need for UBI in the face of AI. Blue states should." BitNevo would really love to see the end of that comment. But yeah, that's generally accurate. I just don't like that Andrew Yang didn't do anything in politics before he decided to run for president. It seems a little egotistical for me. Ola Vivid, did you like my answer about how to fix income inequality? Let me know. I am back, since I wanted to share it because people who are SA children should be at the very least thrown into prison for the rest of their lives. They certainly shouldn't be in positions of power. 100% agree with you on that. I'm back. You will never hear me arguing otherwise. Average Joe says, "Do you think QAnon was weirdly accurate about the pedo elite during due to their firsthand knowledge and experience? It feels like this has just been a 10-year lesson on the concept of projection." Yeah, you know, we've been saying for a long time that every accusation coming from the Republican Party is a confession, and, you know, we're 100% seeing that play out. I'm not the kind of person to cast aspersions on other voters, but I do think that it is weird that the same people who were saying, "I need a gun to protect from government overreach," are doing absolutely zilch when the government is murdering people with ICE and Customs and Border Patrol. And the same people who seemed really upset about Epstein and a secret cabal of pedos running the world seem to be silent about the person that they voted for being highly implicated in that exact pedo ring. Right. Anything Debating says, "Yo, what's up back?" BitNeva says, "Blue states should just do it now to prove it to the citizens of red states so they don't vote red." It has definitely happened already, BitNevo. There are certain states that have done pilot programs for UBI. There's a version of UBI currently in Texas where everybody that not in Texas, in Alaska, where everybody that lives in Alaska gets a piece of the oil that is drilled out of their state. So there's I forget what it's called. It's like a subsidies check or something that everybody gets. And so, yeah, I think we should get that, you know, as well. Let's see here. Stars says, "Like this comment section, I found my people. Welcome to the party." Stars emoji. Filthy Rich Brawler says, "What's going on with Senate crypto debate?" Oh, I actually don't know if there have been any updates on what the Senate is doing or not doing about crypto. Connor99 says, "Halo 3 or Halo Reach?" I was never into Halo all that much. I loved the campaign. I was terrible at the multiplayer, and I never played Halo Reach. I do like real-time strategy games, and if I remember correctly, Halo Reach was that. My favorite video game of all time are the XCOM series, XCOM's Enemy Unknown and XCOM 2 Enemy Within. Fucking 10 out of 10. You know, find me a game that is like those games, and I will play those games. You know, I love that game design is my favorite. Big Raspberry says, do you think Epstein is alive? I do not. And in fact, actually, you know, I haven't been able to confirm whether or not that picture that I saw is real, but I did see that a picture was circulating about the body that showed that it looked like there was a struggle on the neck as opposed to being an unaliving. So I don't know. Can't claim any of this shit is true. You know, we're living in an age of rampant disinformation, so we can't. It is irresponsible to suggest that we know things to be true that we do not know to be true. Okay, 1974 says, I play Elite Dangerous and The Long Dark mostly. I don't know anything about those games. I'm playing For the King right now, and that's pretty fun. Miz Gonna Be Alright Someday says, do you think he cloned himself? I wouldn't put it past him to try. Bill Bird, or Blackbird, says, do you find it odd that these so-called kidnappers of Savannah's mother want crypto when it's crashing? I don't find that odd. Crypto is designed for crimes. Like, it is untraceable, where if you drop off a suitcase full of cash, those bills can be marked, or they can try to stake out where the cash drop is. But crypto is designed for ransoms and other crimes. Big Raspberry says there's a conspiracy theory, the body of Hillary Clinton's brother, and he lives in Tel Aviv. I mean, it's possible, you know, but I think that's one of those conspiracy theories that's just like, oh, yeah, maybe. It's fun to think about, but I'm definitely not going to stake my reputation on that. Anything Debating says, AOC, Josh Shapiro, 2028 thoughts. I think those are both great. If I had to decide who I wanted to be the Democratic president in 28, I would say Chris Murphy. But, you know, there's going to be a primary. The voters are going to decide. And whoever the Democratic nominee is, I think we need to recognize now that whatever negative thing comes out about that Democratic candidate, they will still be better than the Republican candidate without question. I am able to call that right now. If I am wrong in that prediction, call me on it, but it will not be. I am 100% confident of it. Let's see here. Kimberlina says, how is crypto untraceable? Is it not regulated? Seems shady. That you literally just described. That is the textbook definition of cryptocurrency. Unregulated and shady. 100%, Kimberlina. Alrighty. Star Emoji says, can we please vote for a black woman next time? Star Emojis, did you not just say, oh, you're from Denmark, but are you an American citizen now? Some people are worried that America is too racist and misogynistic to vote for a woman or a woman of color. And I don't tend to feel that way. Like, we voted for Barack Obama in 2008 when America was arguably less progressive and more racist. So, you know, I don't know. That doesn't really track with me. If I see a candidate that I like, I vote for them in the primary. I don't do that kind of like debating with yourself, you know, this person can't win, so I'm not going to vote for them. It's the reason why I advocated for Elizabeth Warren in 2020. I was like, she's my favorite candidate. I think she's the best, so I'm going to vote for her. But some people are going to do that. Some people are going to make that calculation. Is it smart to make that calculation? I have no idea. Let's see here. I'm from Denmark, but I am invested in USA politics since it affects my country so much. Yeah, but you said, can we, as though you are one of those people, star emojis. So gotta let you know, find it a little sus. All right, John Abbott says their conclusion was that either he wasn't dead when the picture was taken, or it was taken so soon after his death that the official timeline of when they found him dead couldn't be true. Oh, that's interesting. How about that? Average Joe says, is it reasonable to feel like Schumer's refusal to support abolishing ICE is due to the fact that he would never condemn similar violations? Hey, I've just been reported for misinformation. Isn't that interesting? And as per usual, TikTok does not let me appeal this decision because it is complete and utter bullshit. So how about that? How about that, guys? Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting that the right loves free speech except when somebody is a progressive Democrat? How about that? Would never condemn similar violations committed by the IDF. I think that's a stretch, Average Joe. I think it's much more likely that he views abolishing ICE as a extreme left position, and he's worried that backing an extreme left position would turn off centrist voters. Alrighty. Let's see here. Shork says, what is Candace always doing, spreading all her conspiracy theories? She's just trying to make money for herself, you know? Travels Paranormal says, are you going to come to Nashville with Steve Hofstetter next time? I am not on that show. I do not believe so. I'm actually having some trouble with my TikTok platform, in addition to all of the violations that are non-existent that I am currently suffering under the yoke of. Here's the problem. Is that the problem? I have no idea. Well, regardless, this live is ending in 4 minutes and 30 seconds because I can no longer access the platform. Seems pretty sus. All right, everybody, I'm going to do my little outro. And thank you, everybody, for being here. If you want to support the show financially, you can, but you don't have to. You can join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can be a super fan on TikTok. You can become a subscriber on Twitch. You can actually become a subscriber on Twitch for free using your Amazon Prime account, and that helps me out a ton. It costs you $0. And you can send gifts, of course, and things like that. Special shout out to everybody that gave gifts on this live stream, and also to my regular patrons: Grimmagus, Robert, Shannon, Carmine, Patrick, Dan Blackroyd, the two Seans, Lauren Triska, Pliff, and It's the Rocketeer. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. If there are any questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream, do not hesitate to reach out. You can hit me up via my website. You can send me a DM. DMs are open. You can hit me up on my Discord channel. I want to be a resource for you, so use me to abuse me, until you use me up. I want to be the person that gets you more informed and more involved in politics. So let me do that for you if I can do that for you. I also love the Discord because there's great recommendations there for podcasts and books, and also for work that we desperately need people like you to be doing. So there are great nonprofits out there that desperately need people just like you. They need your time and they need your money. So go out there and donate your time and donate your money, whatever you can. The work continues. No matter what happens, no matter how many shitty Supreme Court decisions, no matter how many offensive tweets, no matter how many people ICE summarily murders, the work continues. No matter how many special elections Democrats fucking crush in deep red districts, the work continues. So we keep our foot on the gas. We do the work. We do our self-care so that we can sustain the work. But then we get back in on Monday and we continue doing the work. Alrighty. Let's see here. Yeah, I can not even scroll up on my TikTok comments anymore. I have been completely locked out of my TikTok platform. I don't even know if I can X out of it at this point. Yeah, real fucking weird. What's going on here? Hey, we're back. I suddenly have control again. How about that? What a world we are living in, everybody. Where the countdown clock, this is like the fucking Fast and the Furious movies. It was just like, ticking clock shit happening. All right, let's see if we got any final questions to address now that I'm fucking back in the game, man. Although it looks like my live goal is still not letting me updates. Leop says, thoughts on U.S. intervention in Latin America? I'm against it. Mama Deb says, we shouldn't look for perfection in our candidates. Look at the current administration. 100% accurate. Orankar says, we heard you. NGA. I don't know what that means. Orankar says, do you do butt stuff? No, I do not. And my wife is pissed about that. Alrighty. Alright, yeah, looks like we're all caught up. Skylar Ray says, why do you think Trump beat both Clinton and Harris, both far better candidates than him? I think there's a ton of reasons for that, Skylar, and people have written entire books about it. Short version, there's probably a little misogyny and racism in there. Massive campaign finance violations, in-kind contributions to people like Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin. A culture that was not prepared for misinformation and propaganda in 2016, and a culture that was pissed off about prices in 2024, even though the Democrats were not responsible for prices going up. So yeah, there's a little bit there. Let's see here. Orenkar says, how many milligrams of Adderall do you take? Not as many inches as somebody's mom takes. Alrighty. Big Mike says, God bless Trump. Congratulations, that is also a block. Let's see here. Exo says, what do you think of the drug website Trump just released? There are a handful of things that Trump does that kind of look like they are going to be good. You know, like the investment accounts for people's college funds and shit like that. But you cannot trust him. You cannot trust that anything that he does is not just a mechanism to put your money into his pockets. So I would never use that website. I will never set up a Trump fund for my child to go to college. They could be offering my medication at a cent for every 3 months. I do not trust. And at this point, there is nothing he can do to change that. All right, scrolling down the bottom. Sorry for tomorrow says, with everything Trump does is to actually benefit him. Accurate. Mon says, how can we make detention centers accountable for negligence? That is an excellent question, Mon. And I know that there are nonprofits who are dealing with more like on the ground legal accountability shit. The easiest thing that you and I can do is just the work of replacing the people that are currently in charge of the government. If Democrats take over the House, we can finally start seeing some oversight and accountability for ICE and these detention centers. Now, there are limited things that they will be able to do, but they will be able to stop the bleeding in some ways. And so, you know, boycotting, protesting, striking, working with nonprofit groups that are already doing this work, recruiting people for the fight, convincing people to vote for Democrats and vote against Republicans. That's the work, guy. That is the work. Brando says, thoughts on AIPAC? I don't like AIPAC, but I also don't like Heritage or Federalists. I don't like any lobbying organization. Swagsta says, Venezuelan oil and allied with China and Russia on our side of the hemisphere. Give me that shit. That's a really weird thing to say, Swagsta. I'm going to not boot you right away, but consider yourself sus. Sonia DeBoss says, no, don't say good and Trump in the same sentence. Yeah, I guess that's fair, I suppose. Scrolling down the bottom. Swags is on probation. 100% accurate. 6'5" Asian says, do you like kids? I mean, not to eat and not for graping, but for raising. Yes, my wife is pregnant. But I know what you're doing, 6'5" Asian. Alrighty, let's see here. Average Joe says, everybody thank your local ADL representative for ignoring actual Nazis while pretending it's anti-Semitic to be anti-Israel. Hell yes, Average Joe. Accurate as hell. The dude do not miss. Kim Buckman says, boy or girl? We're having a girl. And we are about 3 months away from our due dates, and my wife is over it. Oh, this has been hard. Fucking pregnancy is some saw shit, man. Like, it's fucking torture. It's Guantanamo Bay inside my it's like a reverse Guantanamo Bay where the inside is torturing the outside. There is no God. Like, how could this happen? How could this be the system that works best? You know? God damn. Swagsta says, I was expecting an argument as to why we shouldn't do anything regarding Venezuela. That is not what you were expecting, Swagsta. That is not what your comment suggested. Good Lord. trying to gaslight me into thinking that you've been here in good faith the whole time. Fucking miss me with that nonsense. Kim Buckman says, do you have a name picked out? No, the name is a little bit of an issue right now. There are names that I love and names that my wife loves, and we cannot agree on anything. So we're gonna work on it. Let's see here. Mencho says, do you like libertarians? I mean, voters, I have no problem with any voter, any individual voter. The libertarian philosophy, though, does not work. States and cities have tried it, and the states that have tried it have gotten overrun by bears. It does not work. Additionally, if you read the book Dark Money, you see that the entire libertarian movement is astroturfed by the billionaire class. Like, the billionaires want you to vote libertarian because libertarians believe in removing government regulations, which means the billionaires can poison our air and our water and our food supply, and they can operate without any kind of legal accountability for accidentally blowing up teenagers with their shitty fucking gas lines. So, yeah, I guess short version is no, I do not care for the libertarian philosophy. Willie says, don't pick Ivanka for the name. Well, shit, now I gotta go back to fucking square one here. Travels Paranormal says, what is the ice cream of choice for her cravings? She loves cookies and cream from Cold Stone, and she loves cereal milk from Milk Bar. Swagster says, thoughts on neo-libertarian flangelism? I don't know what that means. Sorry for Tomorrow says, we need to build up more alternative parties. I disagree, Sorry for Tomorrow. I think we can change the political parties by just voting for better people in the primaries. Willie says, do you think there should be government intervention regarding microplastics in consumer products? Yes, but we have to recognize how fully enmeshed plastics are in our lives. Like, it is really difficult to try to eliminate plastics from your life. And so we are having all these great new technologies that are developing biodegradable plastics. I believe that there is a researcher who invented a plastic that you can literally time. You can say, I want this plastic thing to exist for a year and then dissolve after that. And so incorporating that into mass production and replacing all of our plastic products with that new kind of plastic that does biodegrade, that is a massive project that I do believe the government should be involved in. The issue that I'm having right now is the fact that we have a president who is so easily corruptible and so in bed with the fossil fuel industry that he is doing the opposite. That he is going to actively stop these new great degradable plastics from entering into mainstream production. And he's going to continue subsidizing fossil fuels and drilling oil and using taxpayer dollars to steal oil from other countries. So yeah, I guess I'm just tired of having somebody who is so obviously corrupt and doing the wrong things in every single situation as the president, you know? Tennessee Travelers Paranormal says Tennessee is trying to pass a law that pesticide companies can't be sued if products make people ill. That sounds like some Republican shit. For darn sure, that sounds like some Republican shit. Kimberlina says, when I was pregnant with my girls, all I wanted was fettuccine Alfredo. Yeah. My wife does love a good fettuccine Alfredo. That is for darn sure. All right, everybody. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your gifts, your shares, your likes. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Do the work. Have a great weekend. And I will see you guys on Monday. Same bat time. Same bat channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Take care. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.